Welcome to episode 4 of Joan Deserves a Musical, where I talk about my efforts to turn the life of Joan of Arc into an animated musical. Where we left off last time is the executive producer at a highly respected animation studio told me that my idea could be brilliant if I could just figure out how to execute on it, but I hadn't figured it out yet. So I was stuck a little bit. I had been working on this script. I had a good draft. I had revised it a few times, and now I needed to figure out how to get feedback from a lot of different sources, not just because that's what this executive producer told me to do, but because I have found in my creative writing efforts previously, feedback from a variety of sources is the only way you get a really great product in the end. And so I started reaching out to people. There were people I hadn't seen since I was in college, like 15 years earlier, who had been in a writing group with me. And I reached out and said, hey, I'm writing this thing. Will you read it? And I reached out to my oldest brother, who is a high school English teacher in the San Francisco Bay Area. I said, hey, I wrote this thing. Will you read it? I have a friend who is currently in film school, and I told him about my idea, and he said it was great. And so I sent him my manuscript and said, hey, will you read it? I was sending it to everyone I could think of, old friends, family members, anyone who would give me feedback. I would guess I sent it to 10 people. And I would also guess I got feedback from 3, which honestly, as odds go, is not that bad. I'm asking people, some of whom I haven't talked to in years, to take time out of their busy lives to read this thing that they have no idea, it might be terrible, and to give me some sort of feedback to help me get it better. And so based on the feedback I got, I made some revisions and I did things better. But one thing that kept coming up was, Kyle, you got to figure out the songs. So the way I'd written it, theoretically, my understanding is when you're writing something in screenplay format, 1 page equals about 1 minute of finished product, right? And I had analyzed the length of Disney movies. It turns out Renaissance movies are about 85 minutes, and the new Renaissance, whatever we're calling that, Tangled, Frozen, and Kanto, they're a little longer. They're like 5 to 10 minutes longer. They're more like in the 90 range. So I really wanted my manuscript somewhere in there. My first draft was like 180 pages, which was Lord of the Rings length. It was never going to work, but I cut and I cut and I cut and I cut and I got down to 85 pages. Perfect, goal. But to know how much space the songs would take, anywhere I thought a song should go, I just wrote the words sing, 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 song, 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 sing, 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 song, song, song for 2.5 pages, because I figure that's an okay runtime for a song. And so I just had these placeholders, right? I had ideas about where structurally the song should go. Again, I really feel that songs are an important part of how to tell the Joan of Arc story. There are moments where she goes to people she's never met before, people who are in power, and she's just a teenage girl, and she says, I think you should put me in charge of the armies. And in the historical record, we're told that they doubt her a little bit, and then they say, okay. And it's just hard for me as a modern person to understand how that's even possible. But if we imagine it as a musical, and we have some finger-snapping, toe-tapping kind of songs there, then we come along with it emotionally, right? And we say, yes, absolutely that guy should send her to the king. She's going to make a great leader of the army because she sings like Amanda Vernon, right? And so that is where I was at, but the songs were just a placeholder, and it was kind of a hypothesis. I think a song should go here. And then as I'm writing dialogue and stuff, I'm like, I don't actually know if this will be covered in that song or if it needs to be covered here. There are probably some duplications. There are probably some gaps, but we won't know until the songs exist. And the songs won't exist until I have an animation studio who is willing to build the thing so that then I can go back to my songwriter and say, hey, we're in business. I can now pay you to write some songs. Will you write me some songs? But that can't happen until the script is finalized, and the script isn't finalized until the songs are there. And so it just felt like this endless loop of we're never going to get this to a place where it needs to be unless I can work directly with my songwriter to get it done. And here I really had to spend a lot of time introspecting on what I felt I could ask for. I'd been learning all through this process. The idea that Joan of Arc deserves a musical somehow resonates with people. People get excited. Professionals who are busy say, yes, random stranger with no experience in the entertainment industry, I'd be happy to have a Zoom call with you to discuss this most interesting project, which is really validating. But that doesn't get us to a point where anyone is committed to do anything except for me, right? And I'm already committed to this project because it's my project. And so I took the feedback I got from the friends and family members I got it from, and I worked it in, and I had a script I felt was as good as it was going to get without some sort of creative input from my songwriter. So I go back to Amanda Vernon, the Catholic pop star I had done cold outreach to and had a phenomenal response from. And I said, here is a script. It is 85 pages long. It shouldn't take more than an hour to read, maybe 2 if you have a lot of feedback and interruptions. Can you please give me something? And she expressed her willingness, but the fact of the matter is people are busy, right? And it's just hard for me. Amanda has 4 kids. I have 4 kids. I don't have time to read stuff. And if I do have time to read stuff, I'm not going to read some random manuscript from someone who maybe writes garbage manuscripts, right? I'm going to spend my time reading something I actually like. And so that I was stuck there for months. And I had this sense of, I don't know what to do, right? And the holidays come, and I'm just very gently, finding ways to remind Amanda of my existence. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, right? But I don't feel like I have any leverage, right? There is no part of me that wants to be like, hey, I need your feedback to figure out this project, because it felt so fated that I'm never going to have a better match for a songwriter in this project than what I have with my first try here, right? Like, go watch episode 2 to hear all about that. And then I had an idea. Maybe I should change the modality. Maybe I should change the format of my ask, right? So I spent some time. It took me about a week. I read through my manuscript, made sure I tightened up anything that was loose, right? And then thought a lot about the songs, and went and identified songs out in the world, some by Amanda Vernon, some by other people, and put together a narrative of what it was I was asking her to do, because I realized I don't actually need her to read the whole script. I'm not expecting her to give me line edits and find typos and stuff, right? I just need to deliver to her a version of the project, something more tangible than my high-level vision of Joan deserves a miracle and a musical, and something that's more like, here's scene 1, here's scene 2, here's what's happening, here's where the songs go, here's what I think the song should sound like. What do you think? Is that a project you'd be willing to work on? So I outlined it all out. I took sound clips, and I recorded something like a podcast episode. I really intended for it to be like a 7 to 10 minute listen. It ended up being almost 40 minutes long, and I was like, I don't know if that's better than asking someone to read 85 pages, but it was better. I knew in my heart it was better because it was a lot more fun for me. I was willing to give it a listen, and so I exported it out as an MP3, uploaded it into Gmail, and said, hey, Amanda, all the things I just said in this video. I know you're busy. I'm busy. I can't imagine sitting down and reading this thing a stranger sent me. I'm hoping that listening to something will be more your style. Here you go. Sent it to her on a Friday night. By Saturday morning, I had a response from her saying she loved it. She laughed. She cried. She listened to it with her 7-year-old, who sat in rapt attention, listening to me rattle on about Joan of Arc. And she sent me some bullet points like, have you thought about this song from this movie? Have you thought about this song from The Prince of Egypt? Have you thought about maybe structurally you could do this? And I was like, this is so great. This is better than anything I imagined. What's the best way for me to get this feedback? Can we hop on a Zoom call? And she's like, yeah, I think a Zoom call would be great. What are you doing Monday? And I was like, I will clear Monday out for you so we can have this conversation. And so we met up on Zoom on Monday. And, I think our first conversation on Zoom was maybe 20 minutes, right? If you're meeting a random stranger on Zoom, you don't hang out and talk for very long because there's just not that much to talk about. Amanda and I talked for nearly 2 hours. It was like an hour 45. And we talked about each song, and we talked about things, and she had such lucid feedback about big restructures that could happen in the plot, ways music could be used differently, not just in these inflection points, but also as part of the overarching narrative. And I came away on fire. I've been so excited about this project for more than a year now, right? This conversation is almost a year after our first conversation, and a lot has happened, and I've been very excited the whole time. But now I just cannot hold still because I'm so excited for all the ideas she's given me, and I'm so excited to go work them in, and I finally have the feedback I needed to get this into a state I needed it to get into. And so I set to work doing that, and in the next episode, I will tell you about what happened afterward.